Hello, and welcome to another episode of Movies That Make Us. I'm Jake.
I'm Tracy.
And I'm Val.
And this is it. We've been talking about it. It is officially February. That means 00 February. Guys, it's finally here. January's over, and that was a heck of a year.
Yeah, and the inversion's starting to set in the Salt Lake Valley, so I'm ready for spring. Let's go.
Yeah, I am too. It was nice. I was driving the kids to school this morning, and we could see the sunrise, and the sky was all pretty. And I'm like, okay, it's starting to get lighter earlier. It's starting to get dark later. Like it's, yeah, the worst part of winter, I think, is behind us. I hope. And we complain a lot. There have been a lot of people that have had winter much worse this year than we have, and I shouldn't complain.
But we've had a pretty strong winter snowpack though, which is good, but we're not used to that.
No, we've been spoiled the last few years as far as that goes, because like I haven't had to shovel my walk very much, and then there was a week where I feel like I did it more than I did the last 5 years combined. But again, we've been fortunate, and we're glad to get the water, or the moisture, as they like to say around here. The moisture.
We need the moisture.
Val, you survived Sundance.
Yes.
Yeah, I still have stuff to edit, and I could still be watching things if I want. I'm a little burnt out. I'm a little burnt out right now, but I do have like so much to cover and to post and everything, but I don't know. It was fun. And then there were some things about it that I didn't love. I don't know.
But you've survived.
Yeah, I did. It was cold. It was very cold up there.
Yeah. I'm sure.
It's just so much to do and so much to choose from. And I know you're like, oh, wow, Val, that's like,
nope.
You get to go to Sundance and you have to choose where, but it's like, what are you going to cover? And then how quickly can you get it out? And then
you've got the next movie that you got to go do.
Yeah, I'm still seeing, other movies. And then we have South by Southwest that's coming up, and they're already sending stuff out. And we have Zion Film Festival that I'm watching. I'm a judge for the feature films, and I'm watching those. Some of those are a little bit hard to watch.
Yeah.
Not all movies are winners, regardless of where they come from. Like there were some that I saw at Sundance that I was like, well, that was a waste of my 2 hours. I could have picked something else, but you don't know till you get in there, I'm just happy that there are films being made and that I get to watch them and that I don't have to pay for it.
Yeah.
3 good things.
No, but I think you have a really good point about having to choose. I think there's just such a high expectation nowadays that if you go to one of these, you're covering everything and you are presenting everything and you're talking about everything, and you just can't. It's just not possible. And I think you can get burned out really easy and overwhelmed really easy. So
I'm leaving on vacation. I will be out this week on a cruise where I did not pay for the internet. I think I have 150 minutes of Wi-Fi from my cabin. And I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay with we have a lot of stops where I'll be able to like check in on my family with my phone. Sure. But when we're on the ship,
it's you and Dave.
Sorry, and the ship. Dudes. I'm busy.
Yeah. Well, that's great to disconnect. I'm thinking 150 minutes. That's not even one Lord of the Rings movie all the way through.
No. Yeah. That's a good
point.
So
that is a small amount of Wi-Fi.
Yeah. And so I counted my movies last year, and everything that I screened, this was movies, TV shows, everything that I had to screen was 702.
Wow.
So I just feel like my brain is a little overloaded. And this year alone, just the month of January, I've watched 32 movies.
Wow.
Like,
That's incredible.
I just, yeah. And I
Yeah,
know I
need
need
a
to
break.
update like my website with all my reviews, but I'm just like, you know?
It's a lot. It's a lot, Val. I think it's commendable how much you do, because you're a team of one as far as that goes.
Yeah.
Like, you are doing everything on that website. You're doing everything on the
Yeah.
YouTube, and like what you've accomplished on there is pretty amazing when you consider all of that. And
Mhm.
I
I
don't know.
do know. Thank you. I do know I am behind on that and on some podcasting for What to See with Val, but yeah, I just need like a little breather and I need to digest and
Yeah.
I need to not be at a movie like this. The last 2 days I've watched eight movies, not 10 movies in the
In the last 2 days.
last 2.5 days because I fit almost all of the movies for Zion. Like I watched 4 today, 3 yesterday, and then I also had to watch M. Night Shyamalan's movie,
I'm sorry.
and it did
Tracy with
suck.
the apology already.
It's so in the M. Night Shyamalan like
Range of
timeline
suckiness
of
from
good
stuck
to bad.
stuck.
It's more of a top tier. It's closer to the top tier.
So
There's a
in
lot
the
of things
range,
about the movie that I think will make people angry and make you feel uncomfortable, but he does it on purpose. But I just
Yeah.
really like the cast and how he put them in different roles than they usually play, and the questions that he's asking you to like put yourself in this situation. And you know me, I love when things happen mostly all in one place and you
Yeah.
can make
Mhm.
it feel like there's so much going on. I don't hate M. Night Shyamalan though. Like I don't love all of his movies.
We know,
But I
Tracy.
do understand that it's a love-hate relationship with audiences. But for
Yeah.
me, he takes chances and not for the sake of like how Quentin Tarantino takes chances. I feel
Right.
like Quentin Tarantino just it's like a shock and awe where I feel and some people love that and if that's what you like, great.
Right.
But I feel like M. Night Shyamalan, he makes you think about things that you've never thought about or that maybe you thought about for a minute but you didn't follow through on that weird thought that you had.
Mhm.
And I kind of dig that. I didn't
Yeah.
really care for the movie Old, but I feel like it was a cool idea. Like I like his ideas.
Right.
I just sometimes think that they
That's
don't always
that one's
read
actually
well.
based on a graphic novel.
Yeah. And so was
And this is based on a
Knock
novel.
at the Cabin. I
Yeah.
haven't read
Yeah.
it.
I haven't either.
But yeah, so I talked about Shrinking this week
That's a great
Oh,
on
yeah.
Weekends Utah. I talked about M. Night Shyamalan movie. Oh, and Wakanda Forever is on Disney Plus, so you can
Mhm.
watch that now.
Well,
And then I talked about 80 for
some
Brady,
people have struggled.
which I also didn't mind 80 for Brady. Like these are February movies.
Yeah.
So you kind of like so far January, February movies haven't sucked.
That's good.
Yeah.
Like they're all entertaining. They're going to be forgotten about in
Yeah.
3 months,
I mean,
but it hasn't
it
been a horrible January, February.
I haven't seen 80 for Brady, but I look at it and I think I kind of think I know what that movie is. And I'm
It's
okay with that. Like, it's going to
yeah,
be
it's
entertaining and funny. It's not like you
it's a
watch it, you're like, okay, I
mindless
know what that movie is.
movie and I actually kind of cared about football for 30 minutes cuz I don't usually care. I don't hate football, but I don't
Yeah.
care about football. Do you know what I mean? And seeing all of those women on screen together was so much fun. But there were moments where you knew what was coming. It's not. This is just a movie that you sit with your friends and you laugh and you
Yeah.
watch Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin and oh my gosh, I just
Sally
totally
Field.
Sally Field
Yeah.
get high and
Yeah.
it's and Rita is in it. I love Rita.
Yep.
So yeah, but again, it's
It
not people are going to forget about it next month. They think that M. Night Shyamalan's movie is going to knock Avatar out of the #1 spot. So You'll know by the
Yeah,
time
it's
you hear
been
this episode if that's
number one for like
true.
7 weeks or
Well,
something.
yeah. Wakanda Forever has made quite the stir since being on Disney Plus. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but
I
apparently it's
missed it.
really dark. Like the
Yeah.
movie's
Oh,
not the theme,
visually,
not thematically dark, but like
visually dark.
like you
Yeah, the
can't
version
see.
of it.
Hmm.
Yeah, the version that they had on
I haven't
there.
seen it
So,
yet. I saw it in the
and a
theater. I
lot of
haven't seen it on
people
Disney Plus.
see, I saw it in the theater too, and I feel like the people that are complaining, I want to say, well, this is why you should see those kinds of movies in the theater instead of waiting for them to be on Disney Plus.
Also, you can turn your contrast up on your TV.
You can. That is also a fair point.
That is a
And I'm
good
sure
point.
that they'll get it fixed eventually. But anyway, so I have a confession to make, guys.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever shared this with you or our audience as a whole. I have never ever sat down and watched a James Bond movie all the way through.
Really?
Yes,
How
that is
you
a
Wow.
true
doing?
story. Huh?
How you doing?
I'm good. I've now watched two, so I've watched two of them.
Oh man, I
Yeah,
grew up on James Bond. My mom loved Sean Connery, so like
yeah.
I saw all the Sean Connery ones, and then when I was like preteen into teen, then we had shoot, what is his name? He only did a couple.
Robert
Brosnan?
Moore.
Brosnan?
Brosnan, but before that,
Robert Moore. Was it Robert Moore? No.
Roger?
No.
Roger.
Roger Moore.
Well,
Yeah.
Roger, I grew up with a lot of Roger, and then
Yeah, he was before
Timothy Dalton.
Connery.
That's what it was. Yeah,
Yeah, Timothy Dalton, who is in Doctor Who later as
yeah.
one of the
But
anyway.
you go back and watch some of those 80s James Bond films, and you're like, that totally went over my head when I was younger.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, James Bond is
There's
like
so
my
many.
dad's number one favorite movie. And so every year that there is a movie, that's what he gets for Christmas, like the actual hard copy and then the soundtrack. And I just logged him into my HBO Plus in his bedroom, and I'm like, here you go. You don't even have to put a disc in there, all right here, HBO Max. And but yeah, like I've always loved James Bond. But yeah, when you go back and watch it now that you kind of understand,
it's very dated in a lot of
there's a lot of things that I'm like, even the one we're talking about today, there were some things that were a little cringeworthy for 2006.
Yeah.
I will say though, I think Daniel Craig is the first James Bond where I believe that he could physically, outside of probably Sean Connery, where it felt like he could actually take all these guys on and take the punishment that he does.
Yeah.
Because like he sells it. And I love when M calls him a blunt instrument, and that's exactly what he is. And I like the fact that he's a rookie. He's new at this. He's not the refined, suave, debonair gadget guy, which a lot of the other Bonds have been. It's just him, his wits, his intellect, and his fists, and a gun, and that's it.
Yeah, he's my favorite because he's not so polished.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like all of the other James Bond actors are these suave, polished, beautiful men, right? That you're supposed to think are beautiful. And I'm not saying he is not good looking. He is a very good looking man, but it's not who you would necessarily pick to play this character. And I love it so much because, like you said, Tracy, it's so much more believable. I feel like he has lived a life that has gotten him to the point where he kills people and it doesn't bother him. Like he says in this movie is, he gets asked, well, doesn't it bother you? And he's like, if it did, why would I have this job? Like I have to have this job because killing bad guys does not bother me. And you look at his face and you know that he has done some things to get to this point.
Well, and I think it helps too that that Daniel Craig was a former semi-professional rugby player.
Yeah.
Like he's used to like,
he's got scars from that.
But like my favorite scene in the whole movie, and it's one of my favorite in any James Bond film, is when he's chasing the bomb guy, and the bomb guy is doing all the parkour moves, and the guy like scrambles up the wall and dives through a hole in the wall and then it's just Daniel Craig going right through the drywall. I just love that shot.
Yeah. That chase scene was pretty amazing, and it was a long chase scene.
It's a long one.
Like,
Yeah.
it goes on for quite I mean, it's like 10 minutes of him running and chasing in the crane, and it's intense. Like, it's long, and then when it's over, you're like, that's when I realized how long it was. Like, watching it, it didn't feel long, it didn't feel
Right.
boring or anything, but
Right.
you get done, you're like, wow, that was actually a pretty lengthy chase.
It's like in Avatar: The Way of Water. Like the whole second half of that film is one big action scene, and when it's done, it's like, oh wow, that went on for quite a while. I totally get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
this isn't as long. They reined it in a little bit more than James Cameron did with
I
Avatar:
remember
Way of
when
Water.
this
But
one came out in the theater, and I remember loving this movie so much and thinking, this is my favorite James Bond movie. It was so dark, and what I mean in not dark in color, but dark in story.
Right.
That, like, you know, the ending, for me, there was a few scenes that I really love in this movie. One, when I love Mads Mikkelsen, you guys know how much I love Mads Mikkelsen.
I'm right there with you.
But when they're at the table and they're actually playing poker, I love that scene. Every time they're there, I love it for so many different reasons. And then when he has to like run to his car and save his own life, is fantastic. But then, you know, at the end when she's trapped and sinking lower and lower, and he's sinking lower and lower, and this is setting the tone for everything that's to come for every movie after. And I forgot how much I love the intro song.
Oh, that is one of the best Bond songs.
I think this movie and Quantum of Solace, I totally forgot about the rock elements of these Bond songs. But I do have to say, after saying all that, out of all of these movies of Daniel Craig's, this one is my least favorite. After rewatching them, this is my least favorite one. It has some really good moments that I love. And of course we need it because it sets up everything that's to come. But other than a few of these really exciting moments, it's kind of a little lackluster for me and my least favorite out of all of them.
So I'm kind of the opposite. This will be interesting.
It's interesting that you say that, Val, because I'm hoping that the others get better from here. And Quantum of Solace I enjoyed more than Casino Royale.
Me too.
And I know, but okay, first timer here, but this is
gonna be a doozy.
This is why, and I think it goes along with what you're saying, Val. I told my wife, I said, it is so weird because Casino Royale had both too many action sequences and not enough action sequences, because you've got 3 or 4 slammed and crammed in the beginning, and then 3 or 4 at the end, and in the middle, nothing. And it is just sitting at the card table playing cards, and I'm like, it just felt really unbalanced because of that. And I didn't feel that way in Quantum of Solace. I felt like it was spaced out better, and it was paced a little bit better.
The pacing was a lot better in Quantum of Solace for me.
Completely. Yeah.
But the part where they got him naked on that chair and he's just taking a beating, that's an awesome scene for a lot of reasons.
Oh, that I remember seeing that in the theater, and ever since I cringe every time that scene. I think every guy cringes every time that scene comes on.
Well, but how I mean, he's obviously very tough when he says, you know, I've got an itch just to the right, you know, just
I just love how he's going. He has to take himself to this mad place.
Yeah.
You know, and he does that laugh instead of cry, you know, and you know he's in pain, but he's not going to give in. And then the awesome one-liners that he keeps giving, he was just so witty until he hears the pain that's coming from down the hall.
Yeah. And Eva Green is fantastic. I'm a big fan of hers. I do feel like she gets a little bit left out in this one. That's a little bit too much damsel in distress for her, for me, especially because I've seen her in other stuff where she's really much more dominant in terms of the story. And I understand, and that's one thing I thought Quantum of Solace did better, is they allowed the female role to be more, not necessarily aggressive, but more of a player in the story.
Well, I think they
Not as much of a damsel in distress.
Rhodey just opened the door to my office, so we might have some tug noises.
Um,
I think they built the female characters up more and more as you get through his movies to all the way to the end, and it's more every time, which I really like.
Yeah. Although I think I get what you're saying, Tracy, and I don't disagree. She is very much damsel in distress, but I feel like you're telling a story where you're not going to suspect that she's tied in with the bad guys at all. And like to find out she is involved at all and she's not just an accountant. She's not, I think it was a bit more of a surprise. If she had been more, I don't know, actiony, I think it would have been but I don't know.
Plus, I mean, it's
I
his
agree.
origin story in a lot of ways. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I get that, but I do wish.
But in 2006, though, we didn't respect women like we do now. It's gotten a lot better.
It's still crazy to me that it's 2006.
It doesn't
played
feel that
this
long
part
ago.
For a long time.
Oh,
he does.
A long time. But I do think like this first one is more like the old school Bonds because you've got just a few Bond girls thrown in there just for little flings.
Yeah.
But what I don't believe so much about this is how quickly she falls for him after being such kind of this hardcore, person in the beginning. And I get it, like you go through, some trauma. Also, she's trying to pretend, but then we find out that she wasn't really pretending. She's trying to save his life. And she's like the love of his life all of a sudden after all of this time. Like there's
it was a little
I just felt like I have seen the episode of this perfect example. Okay. The episode of The Last of Us.
Right.
Last week, where we meet two people and we see their whole life together. And in 45 minutes, we care about these people. We believe in their relationship.
Right.
Yet DC can't make a movie. But this is the same thing. This movie is a good movie. But in the whole amount of time of this movie, I did not believe by the end this time around. When I first saw it in the theater, I wanted all of it. I'm like, give it to me. I believe you, not questioning anything because I wanted it so badly. But watching it, this time, I didn't believe it. I didn't believe their relationship got to where it did. There were some things missing for me where maybe we get a little less of some other things and we get a little more of them. I don't know what it needed to be, but
well, speaking real quick on the trauma that you mentioned, I thought this was interesting, doing just a little bit of studying up on the film. And originally the script called for after she witnesses the murders, or after Bond kills the henchman, and she's in the shower. Originally the script called for her to be in her underwear. And Daniel Craig was like, the character would not take the time to take off their clothes and just go in their underwear. She would just go in, and stood up for her to not have to do that in the scene, which I think is pretty cool. And it makes perfect sense. I think it's a much better scene. I think he's absolutely right in that.
It's more traumatic, honestly, because that just highlights that she's not in her right frame of mind, and she's not
in fully dressed and just culture.
And what it does is it makes the scene traumatic and about the trauma, and not sexual in nature,
right?
Which is what it would have been.
Sexy.
Exactly.
But yeah,
it's
in the right kind of way.
Right.
Yeah. But listen,
it doesn't detract.
I don't know if you guys know this, but James Bond is a good-looking guy, and you know that because they have it written in the script for other characters to point that out multiple times in this movie. Multiple times. Even as you're getting ready to torture the guy, wow, you really take great care of your body. Like, come on, man.
But I also think for her,
we get it. He's incredibly good-looking.
I still think it's also sexy for her because when you see wet, light-colored cloth clinging to someone's skin, you're still getting the sexy that they wanted, but you're getting it in a more believable way. So for me, it's not scantily clad. It's still there's that tension. It's still something we want to see on the screen, but in a better way.
Okay, so as a film geek, and you guys know I love when it comes to editing. To me, these action sequences are some of the best filmed and edited sequences in all of the James Bond films. And it's hard to do action. So when I went to film school, when we were taking our 16 millimeter year-long class, we got a reel of a fight scene from the old TV show Gunsmoke, because the rights had been released so they could just use it. And so we had to edit together a fight scene between Mr. Dillon, and I can't remember the other guy's name, and present that to the professor. And we got all of the raw footage that they shot, like copies of the raw footage. So we had multiple angles, multiple takes, and we had to put that together. And it was so interesting to see how everybody's was different from each other, the way that it was edited together. And I was noticing, watching these back to back, or actually back to back. This is edited so well, because one of the things in an action sequence is you have to know your geography. You don't ever want your audience to go, now, wait a minute, who's that? Where are they? You want to know where they are physically in time and space. And that chase scene right at the beginning that we talked about a little bit, it's like so well done, because you know absolutely where both of them are in relation to each other and how it's happening, versus in Quantum of Solace, and we'll get to this in the next episode, that boat scene is one of the worst action edited pieces I have seen in a long time. So, but I used to, when I was a film professor, I used to show sections from that chase scene when he's up on the crane, and then, all of that. I used to show that in terms of pacing and editing and breaking that down. It's one of my favorite sequences. I love that.
Yeah, the action scenes when they're happening are fantastic. I just feel like we get a really big lull in the middle where there's not a lot, and that throws the pacing overall of the movie off.
If I remember right, the original, they played Baccarat, and they updated it to poker so it'd be a little bit easier for modern, because I think in the original they have a long sequence with Baccarat, and they've got to explain the rules and all of that. And in this one, it's like they still kind of do, where he's like, he has to bet everything, and so they're kind of guiding you through. As a non-poker player, I don't know all the rules. But that sequence does go on for too long. I totally agree.
Yeah. But when the action scenes are happening, I mean, when he's driving in the car, and all of a sudden she's in the middle of the road, and like I'm slamming on the brakes at that point, because I don't want to hit her either. And then the crash and the rollover and everything.
That poor car. They did it 3 times with 3 Aston Martins, and each one of them are $300,000 each. It was almost $1 million to get that shot.
Well, but he can't be driving anything else. You can't have James Bond driving not an Aston Martin.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
But yeah, I'm like, ooh, when they were writing that in the script, I wonder if the budget guy, when they first get the script, they have to kind of break down what they think the budget's going to be. If he was like,
I mean, I think if you're making a Bond movie, that your car budget is going to be bigger than like anything else.
I know,
were all three of them.
Oh.
Were all 3 of them actually Aston Martins, or were some of them like kit cars?
Aston Martins.
Yep. Yeah, because they usually build kit. Well, they now for a lot of movies they build kit cars. But that's funny that
that's part of
nothing less.
Part of their deal with the James Bond people is that it's got to be a legit Aston Martin. Yeah.
And he's got to wear the Omega watches.
He does.
Which apparently he's not Omega. I didn't know that until he said what he was wearing.
It's not a Swatch watch.
Like this was a great jumping on point, I think, for the James Bond movies. If you've never seen a James Bond movie, and I'm still confused by all the different Bonds and all of that, and I, like I said, this is my first time, but it's a great jumping on point because we do get a kind of a reboot and a restart here for James Bond, and he's brand new.
Curious, is there a reason why you never got into?
No,
James
it
Bond?
just
never
like I know they're out there. I know they're extremely popular. I know a lot of people really love them. It's not because I felt like they were too inappropriate or anything like that.
Oh, no.
Just never, like, it was when I was going to sit down and watch a movie. It's like I could watch James Bond or Lord of the Rings for the 10th time. I'll just watch Lord of the. It was just it just never.
I didn't know if there was
on
a
my
specific
plate.
thing. Like
no.
Okay.
So, but I'm interested to see where the story goes. I have appreciated that this one ties in with the next one, and that they're kind of building and developing the character as it goes, which is
this one goes
cool.
all the way. There are characters in this that go all the way to the last one.
Yeah.
See, and that's cool.
I think it's interesting too, because Martin Campbell also did Goldeneye, which is one of the better Pierce Brosnan James Bond films, which did spawn Goldeneye 64 on the Nintendo 64, which is one of the classic games.
I've played that. I mean,
so, but then he went on to do Green Lantern. So,
which
which
Nintendo
blossomed one of the best marriages of our lifetime.
This is true.
But Goldeneye on Nintendo 64 that just got released for the Switch and Xbox. Yeah. So again, we are grateful to Nintendo for aligning that with our 00 February for us to help kind of get a boost.
Thank you, Nintendo.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
But yeah, he did Goldeneye, and then The Mask of Zorro. He did Vertical Limit, Beyond Borders, The Legend of Zorro, and then Casino Royale. So he's still doing stuff, but this is one of his better ones, I think.
Yeah, this one was good. I like Mask of Zorro quite a bit, though.
Mask of Zorro is pretty good, yeah. Antonio Banderas. Can we just say real quick how good Judi Dench is in this as M?
She's good as M. Like,
she's good at everything.
In general, like, yeah.
But I love the fact that they have a woman as his boss. I think that's great. And some of the lines where she's like, "So how did this lead go?" And he's like, "That was a dead end." She's like, "You killed him, didn't you?"
Yeah.
She's just so matter of fact with him.
Well, it's amazing because even just halfway through the movie, he's gone from like he had 0 kills,
right,
to her saying it's quite the body count you're racking up here because the people just keep dying. By the way, sleeping with James Bond, not a good idea. You'll probably end up dead. So far, that's what I've learned in the 2 movies that I've watched so far. But yeah, she's really good, and she's a good boss. Honestly, like she gives him quite a bit of rope to do what he needs to do, and recognizes like, I get that his techniques are really bad and we need to refine that, but he's getting results and I'm going to trust him. And that's something that seems to keep coming up. And a lot of bosses, it's like, no, if you're not doing it the right way, then
exactly how I want it.
And the fun thing about his Bond is that as the movies go along, he just gets worse about reining it in. He starts to cost them more and more and more money. I mean, there's so much destruction coming up, Jake.
Well, and that was something that was amazing to me as I watched this. I thought, it's a spy movie. It's espionage. I knew there'd be some action in it. Man, he'll blow up like half your city, no problem. Like, I'm like, are you supposed to be keeping a low cover here? You don't want people to know you're around, spying on them? No,
other Bonds,
blow it all.
Other Bonds did a little bit of that, but yeah, not Daniel Craig. But
so I'm getting used to that though. So I'm getting it.
I love the beginning, because to me the beginning sets the pace for the whole rest of the film. We open with the black and white, and we're intercutting with him. It's almost like a detective, like a film noir, where he's in the other 00's office. And then the guy says, "How did he die?" He says, "Your contacts? Not well." And then they intercut with him just bashing the guy into the sink, and they're
destroying a bathroom. It was foreshadowing, like, coming soon to a town near you. What I did to this bathroom, I'm going to blow everything up. It'll be fine.
But whereas, like I was saying, a lot of the other Bonds, they relied on gadgets and stuff like that. And this Bond is like, he just gets down and dirty. Like, he has no problem. And I love the shot too, where the guy says, "Don't worry, the second one is much." And then he shoots him. He's like, "Yep." You're right. That is much easier. I'm good to go now. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, overall, like, I wasn't a fan of his character as much at the end of this movie. Like, there wasn't a lot for me emotionally to be invested in with James Bond at the end of Casino Royale. And I think I struggled with that as I was starting to watch Quantum of Solace, because I'm like, I don't know that I can do 5 movies with this guy, because emotionally, he's completely detached. He's not like a decent guy. I mean, he's a good guy, but he's not a good guy.
Right.
And I was really struggling with it. And so that's kind of where I left it on this one. I just was
Mhm.
like, I don't know that I can watch another 4 of these. I may feel differently now that I've seen Quantum of Solace, and I
Right.
think he's winning me over. But yeah, he's an interesting character.
I have a fun fact, Tracy. Usually you're all about the fun
Please.
facts.
Yes.
But Henry Cavill actually auditioned for this role
Oh,
along with
really?
Daniel Craig, and Daniel Craig beat out Superman for this role.
I could see either one of them working that
It
role
would have
pretty
been it would have been a
really
very
different.
different feel.
But I could
Yeah.
see that. Yeah. Oh, I like
Well,
that
and
one. That's a good fun fact.
Cavill may get his chance. They haven't announced who the new Bond is yet.
True. True. I
But
wouldn't mind that. I'd be okay with that.
yeah.
But yeah, I was reading this article, and Daniel Craig did almost all of his own stunts for this one. And he said he got so beat up and bruised, and he's like getting out of bed every day, and I'm like, I can't do this. You know? He said
Yeah.
the only CGI was to remove the wires that were holding them in safety protocol, you know, when they're up on the crane, when he's hanging off the side of the bus. And then he said when the at the end, when the building is falling into the Venetian canals, those were
Mhm.
models, and so they had to kind of CGI the model in with the rest of the city and the background plates. But he's like, other than that, that was all real. All the stunts were real, and most of that was actually him doing
Yeah.
it. Which props to him. That's
So
tough. Go ahead.
so they'll destroy 3 Aston Martins, but they draw the line at sinking an old building in Venice. They say, "No, we can't actually sink an old building in Venice."
I think it's
That's
against
That's
the
good to
rules.
know that they're somewhat
It's
responsible.
against the rules.
The
Yeah.
Aston Martin can be replaced.
Yeah, a centuries old building in Venice, not so much. So that's good
Not
to
too
know
easily.
that
No. Yeah.
yeah.
But
They destroyed 4 buildings in Venice to get these shots.
I can't get over how well he sells the hits in this. Like when he jumps off of a building and hits the ground, like some other guys, they'll hit the ground and run, and you're like, okay. And he hits, and you're like, ooh, like you physically cringe when something happens to him because he just sells it in his body language so well, which I don't think a lot of action does these days. You get a lot of fight scenes and you don't feel that impact. And so that's another reason I'm excited to see what Michael B. Jordan does with Creed 3, because I think that we could get some of that. But I love it
Yeah, I
when
think him and Jonathan
you feel
Majors are
that.
going to bring a lot of physicality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
he
hope.
has like incredible eyes. Like there's some shots in this where his eyes are just like, boom. It's just incredible. Just so blue.
Yeah.
It just draws you in. Tracy's like,
And then you have the famous beach scene where he comes out of the ocean. And a lot of people thought that that was an homage back to, I can't remember which James Bond film it was, but the lady coming out of the ocean, that was a big thing back in the 60s. You know, so there's like little moments that kind of throw back to the original Bond, but yet it's his own take on it, you know, and it's like him inventing the drink. It's not the martini shaken, not stirred. It's, you know, his own little twist on it, which I think is fun.
Yeah. No, it was good. Mads Mikkelsen was a great villain. I like Lashif. I think he did a great job. He always does a great job. But, you know, he is just because he's such a genius and he can control everything by the numbers and everything else, to have something go chaotic for him. Like when he's beating him up, you can tell he has lost control of the situation. And that's worse than anything else that could have happened to him, is the fact that he is not in control of what's happening. He just does a great job. Plus the 2-colored eye thing, like that was weird.
His
eye thing is
crazy.
Weird.
Yeah. And I think anytime you have to do like makeup around the eye, I got to think as an actor, that would be really difficult to deal with. You've got like this opaque contact in your eye. You've got makeup. You've got fake blood seeping. I mean, there's a lot going on with that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Stuff that you don't think about because it's not the kind of makeup that like stands out in the same sense that like prosthetics do or things like that, but it's still uncomfortable.
Yeah,
So.
it gives them kind of a creep factor, which is really cool. But I'm with you guys. I think Mads is a fantastic actor. I kind of wish they hadn't killed him off. I wish they could have done more with him, but spoiler alert.
Does he not die in this one?
No,
I
that's
saw
what
him
I'm saying.
get shot in the head.
I wish that he hadn't been. Yeah.
Spoiler alert, he dies.
Yeah. He dies.
Oh, are we doing spoiler alerts now on 14?
No. It was supposed to be a joke, but now that we have to explain it to you, Jake, it's not funny.
I'm sorry, I ruined it. My fault. I'll show myself out. Listen, we're recording this later than we usually do. This is what happens, all right? You don't get the next on the ball, Jake.
Oh, goodness, yeah.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. All right. What are we going to grade? Go ahead, Tracy. Did you have something you wanted to add?
I was just going to say, how does this compare to like Austin Powers for you, Jake?
I'm not a huge Austin Powers fan, so this was way better. I mean, Austin Powers I think the first Austin Powers was really funny.
Yeah.
I think by the third one, it was like, okay, this has run its course. We can move forward now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really like the Austin Powers character, but I love Dr. Evil and his son.
Dr. Evil was good. Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway. Who wants to start off the grades?
This one's a B for me.
Yeah.
It's a B.
I've got it at a B-.
Okay. I'm going to go A- on this one. I think that the middle part is too long with the poker sequences, but it's a fresh introduction to a character that had gotten a little bit stale. It's a new twist and a new take on it. I love the physicality of Daniel Craig in it. I'm a big fan of Eva Green. Jeffrey Wright is great in his limited role. Really good acting, Dame Judi Dench. And like I said, I'm a sucker for the editing, and the way that they put that together is really, really good for me. So I'm going to go A- on this one.
All right. There you go. A-, B, B-. That's all in the same ballpark-ish, right? So that's not bad.
Yeah.
I'm sure that there are going to be big Bond fans that are going to be upset that I rated it as low as I did, or great. But
a B- is still a good grade.
I know. There are math tests that I would have killed to get a B- on in school. So back in my day, we didn't have AI to do our math tests for us.
Back
we had
in my
to do it
day,
on our own.
10 years ago.
Back in my day, I had to have a number 2 pencil, and I had to fill in that little bubble. And if I went outside of the bubble, then I got marked wrong.
That's right. None of this AI stuff. All right. Well, there you go. There it is. Our first episode for 00 February. Come back next week. We will be talking about Quantum of Solace. We will get through all 5 films this month, even though there's 4 weeks. All 5 Daniel Craig films. We're not going to cover all of the James Bond films because there's a lot of them.
That would be a year's worth.
But there you go. You can follow us. What's that, Tracy?
I said that would probably be just about a year's worth.
Of magic? Yeah.
No, of James Bond.
I thought this month we were wasting all of our magic. It was gone. We're not going to have any more magic the rest of the year. All right.
No,
a year's worth of
all the James Bond.
Yeah.
It would take us about a year.
It would be. That's a podcast unto itself. Make sure you follow us on all the social media platforms, and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow us at whatever podcast app that you listen to us on. Make sure if you're watching us on YouTube that you like this video and leave a comment. Tell us who your favorite James Bond is in the comments below. We want to know. And then make sure you share us with your friends, because sharing is caring. I think that's all. All right. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your support. We always appreciate it. And until next time, we won't see you at the movies.
And I'm not going to try and sing Chris Cornell.
You're not going to go dun 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 dun.
This has been an Age of Geek media production.